Okay. Countdown just froze, but it's fine. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Go Talk with Marcus, powered by Poddex, fueled by Goat Fuel. It is pay-per-view Saturday. It's pay-per-view Saturday. I gotta say, pay-per-view Saturday is definitely growing on me. Once again, join me for pay-per-view Saturday. Sal Vassallo of Sports in the Big Apple. What's up, man? How you doing?
Good. A 1 p.m. Saturday pay-per-view. It's come along. They're in the UK, but it's just very weird to see it. But it's awesome because now I can, grab lunch and watch the show. This is a good match card that's been put together here, and they usually go all out when they go to different countries for uh pay-per-views, especially. So I'm glad this match card is looking really good. Just looking up and down at the card. I'm glad we're getting an intercontinental title match.
Right?
Just in
It's been
general.
so long since we've had the IC championship on a pay-per-view. I feel like with Gunther as the IC champion, you can't not have him on the card, being that this is the first stadium show in the United Kingdom in over 30 years. Um, this is I'm super, super, super stoked for this card. Before we jump into the card, though, um let's talk about because we haven't talked since summer. We've talked since SummerSlam. We haven't had a show since SummerSlam because there wasn't a pay-per-view in August. So since SummerSlam, Bayley's came back, Iyo Sky has come back, Dakota Kai is back, Hit Row is back, Dexter Lumis is back, Karrion Kross is back. There's a lot of returns some that we didn't see coming. Like obviously Karrion Kross and Dexter Lumis, Hit Row. But then also, of course, the big one that we all kind of expected was going to happen, which was Bayley, which you and I touched on during the SummerSlam show. How many more returns? Oh, and of course, I can't forget the big one, Johnny Gargano. Silly me, I almost forgot about that one. Which I was completely out of left field. How do you feel about these returns? I love them. Like these returns probably would have never happened if Vince was still in charge. Triple H pulling out all the stops. I have been a massive fan. I've popped, well, except for Hit Row, because I wasn't really a big Hit Row fan on the main roster. But all of these returns I've popped for like crazy since they've all been back. It's been great to see these great talents come back to WWE and be on the main roster now.
Yeah, I especially Karrion Kross because Karrion Kross was like, Triple H and an NXT guy, a really good NXT guy, and then came to the main roster and he kind of like it just wasn't the gimmick wasn't very good. So I definitely like what they're doing with him, especially. Obviously, I thought Johnny Gargano was great, and in terms of Bayley, like I really like the idea of a veteran like Bayley taking Dakota Kai and Iyo Sky kind of under her wing, essentially. Like that's how you ultimately, I think, elevate the women's division. You get them involved right away with the four horsewomen, utilize those four. Obviously, Charlotte's out injured, and Sasha Banks is yet to come back, but she will be back. At least I think so. But yeah, it kind of takes some of the pressure off Bayley to begin. Kind of coming back from a big knee injury. So I'm excited. The women's tag title match. The tournament was pretty good. A little bit of a surprise at the end, but
I loved it. I loved it. I popped like crazy on my couch when Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez won the championship. Now I get it, right? Everyone, and it's weird. People act like we've never had scenarios in championship matches, tag team championship matches, where the illegal person gets pinned and the match is over. Like that happens all the time. So this isn't like a scenario where it was like a mistake or a bad booking call. Like we've seen scenarios before where the wrong person gets pinned or shoulders aren't down or feet are on the like this happens all the time. So the backlash about it I think is a little bit too much. I love the fact that Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez have won the titles. I think that makes it that much more I think that'll make it that much more special when Dakota and Iyo and Bayley do finally. Because here's the thing: Dakota Kai and Iyo Sky are going to win the tag team title. It's going to happen, and Bayley is going to become our next Raw Women's Champion. That's going to happen as well. But it would just kind of be weird if Bayley's doesn't win that championship first, because she's like she is the face of the faction in a way. So like I like it. Buys us a couple more matches that I think are going to be really, really good. But I loved it. I loved it. I love Aaliyah. I love Raquel Rodriguez, and I loved the match, and I loved the finish, and I love that we have finally new women's tag team champs.
Yeah, especially Raquel Rodriguez. I really want to see her. You know, the powerhouse, the size. Like that's pretty rare. So I mean, you should, you know, in the athleticism, obviously, they should try to. You know, you don't have to over push her, but definitely keep her looking strong. This is a good way to do it. You know, now like she's already got two really cool accomplishments on her resume on the main roster. She took Ronda Rousey to the limit, and you know now she's a champion. Now next, I think she's you know, somewhere down the line, probably not anytime soon. You know, she will be in that women's title picture for sure, and I think. Throughout her career, she could be a multi-time women's title holder. I see no reason why not. But also with someone like that, like a taller, like a bigger powerhouse, I kind of want to see her turn heel. Not anytime soon. Like obviously give them the title reign.
Of course.
Tag title reign. Make the tag titles relevant again. Have them be defended.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens with Sasha Banks and Naomi down the line. If they come back for those titles, what happens then?
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing too is like Raquel Rodriguez, when she was NXT Women's Champion in NXT, she was great. I loved her reign as NXT Women's Champion. It was fantastic. I would like to see her win multiple women's championships as well. Before we get into the card, since we're talking about returns, PW Insider has reported that Braun Strowman is going to be on Raw on Monday, which means he will be returning to the company. I miss Braun Strowman. I love Braun Strowman. There's also been some reports that Bray Wyatt was on the flight list to Cardiff under his real name, which is Wyndham Rotunda. Do you think we see either of them today in some capacity at some point throughout Clash of the Castle? More so Braun than Bray, because Braun, it's kind of like, it seems like it's pretty official that he's going to be on Raw. Bray is, you know, this is all speculation that we've been doing really for the past like 8 months now. But do you think we see either of them today? I want to say tonight because it's tonight. It'll be like nighttime in Wales, but today.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know about Braun Strowman. I think that they are saving that for tomorrow. Like he was, you know, advertised for tomorrow. It would be pretty cool. Bray Wyatt's a tough one for me because he's more of a, at this point, a believe it when I see it type of like the CM Punk. Like if CM Punk would ever come back to WWE, I'll believe it when I see it, because I've seen reports that Bray Wyatt has been backstage or in town for WWE pay-per-views before. But this is different. If he's flying all the way across to the UK, maybe he makes an appearance here. Remember, Roman Reigns, when he came back and really started this monster heel tribal chief thing, it started with Bray Wyatt. I would love to see, and I don't think Wyatt gets involved in the match.
Right.
But once Roman Reigns retains, because unfortunately I think the prediction of McIntyre winning tonight is not happening. I think it may come full circle here with Bray Wyatt being the one to jump Roman Reigns.
I would love to see Bray Wyatt jump Roman Reigns. We were supposed to get Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt when Bray Wyatt was here, and they were trying to do the whole thing with the Fiend versus Roman, and it never really happened. I don't know. I think it could be interesting. So let's talk about the card. Let's start with Liv Morgan and Shayna Baszler. I feel like we have two different picks for this match. Who do you have winning the match and why?
I don't know. I for whatever reason, I still have Liv Morgan winning, and maybe she wins on. She probably wins on another technicality, and then maybe she circles back to Ronda Rousey, who's now unsuspended. That's just my gut feeling. Like I want Shayna Baszler to win, and I think it's like obviously like you look at the two of them, and Shayna Baszler is kind of a mismatch for Liv Morgan. I mean, you would think that Baszler would steamroll Morgan, but I think Morgan has kind of fed into this, or I think that she'll buy into this whole like, okay, Ronda's shoulder was up and the referee didn't see it. That's one thing. Now I think Liv Morgan does something on purpose since everybody's already booing her anyways. Like maybe WWE tries to deflect the boos. Okay, well now that's heel heat because she's already got the heat anyways. After people begged for her to be champion. Now, yeah, the ending to the match sucked with Ronda Rousey having her shoulder up, but you never, and she tapped out. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, it was that she tapped out, not her shoulder. But yeah, maybe we have something like that where Liv Morgan wins, but with an asterisk.
Shayna Baszler's gonna smash Liv Morgan, like absolutely crush Liv Morgan, and I can't wait for it. I love I love Liv Morgan. I really do. Like seriously, I'm a huge Liv Morgan fan, but I'm an even bigger fan of Shayna Baszler, and Shayna Baszler is amazing. Like, and she hasn't been treated well under Vince, and that's because of and that's primarily because she's not relatively attractive to the decision makers when under Vince's regime. But Shayna Baszler is super great. She's super talented, like a menace in the ring. They don't call her submission magician for no reason. Two-time NXT Women's Champion. I think she finally wins her first main roster championship, which she should have won at WrestleMania 37 or 36 from Becky, but for some reason they let a pregnant Becky Lynch retain her championship and then relinquish it a couple months later for Money in the Bank. It was weird. I really want to see Shayna Baszler walk out of Cardiff as champion, not because I don't think Liv could win, and not because I don't want Liv to win, but because I just want to see Shayna as champion. But also, like, in what world is it believable that Liv Morgan beats Shayna Baszler? It's just not. And I get it. Like, that's like her whole thing is that she's the underdog. But this is, I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's what I was
saying. We're talking about Triple H, and they'll make it happen. But I just, dude, I want to see Shayna Baszler walk out of Cardiff as the SmackDown Women's Champion because she deserves it. It's been way too long. She should be a 2 or 3 time Women's Champion at this point. She's been on the main roster for what, 4 years now? 4 years? 3 years. She's been on the main roster for 3 years now. She should have been at least a 2-time Women's Champion at this point. I want today to mark the beginning of her first Women's Championship reign on the main roster.
So basically, are we getting Ronda Rousey versus Liv Morgan again, or are we getting Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler? I don't know.
Just get Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler versus Liv Morgan because I have a sneaky suspicion that Ronda Rousey is going to interfere in the match.
Yeah,
I have a sneaky suspicion that Ronda's going to interfere in the match.
That could be the technicality that Liv Morgan retains on. Like she'll retain, but on she won't beat Shayna Baszler because there's no feasible way that she could beat Shayna Baszler, which is like with Ronda Rousey, like a fully healthy Ronda Rousey. There definitely has not been enough build for Liv Morgan to beat Ronda Rousey. So that whole time for that build up, I was thinking, okay, Liv Morgan's gonna win because it's her first title defense, but how does she do it? But also, they killed her title reign for me by having her tap out. Like she tapped. It was the same thing with The Undertaker and Brock at SummerSlam where Undertaker tapped out. The referee didn't see it. I hate it when they do that. Because it's not like you lost. You lost. You tapped out. You gave up. I hate it when they do that, especially Undertaker. It's a little bit more forgivable because it wasn't a title match. But I don't know. And, WWE saw what that did because Liv got booed out of the building the next night.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all kind of knew that was going to happen too. I mean, Becky called it months ago when she was feuding with Liv, but like it's also like it's an unfortunate thing, and I really want to see Shayna walk out as champion, but I also feel like given what we saw on SmackDown last night, as far as Ronda now being able to compete, but she's on probation, but she's able to compete in ring again, and her suspension's been lifted. I just have a sneaky suspicion, you're right, that maybe Ronda Rousey interferes in the match, but then it's going to become okay. Liv didn't beat Ronda clean, or she didn't really beat Ronda because she tapped out. She probably won't beat Shayna clean, if at all. Now we're going to go into the mindset where Liv Morgan's going to be walking to potentially a triple threat match with Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey, and there's just no way any one of us will believe that she's going to walk out of that match as champion, whether it's by a hook or by crook or by clean or whatever. So I feel like we should just pull the plug and kind of, I think we should just send Liv Morgan back down to NXT. I love Liv Morgan, but there's nothing wrong with being sent back down to NXT, right? Like Ricochet's on NXT. He's about to fight Carmelo Hayes for the North American Championship on Sunday. AJ Styles was on NXT earlier this year. Dolph Ziggler was on NXT earlier this year. Won the NXT Championship, right? Mandy Rose has been on NXT for almost a year now. She's been the NXT Women's Champion all this time. There's nothing wrong with being sent back down to NXT. I think Liv Morgan needs a bit more time, specifically with her promo work. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's right there in the middle. And me personally, as much as I love Liv, I do think if you're the champion, the one thing you can't like struggle with is your promo. That's why I didn't like Ronda as champion, because there's no denying Ronda's talent and her ability and the credibility she brings to a championship. But Ronda Rousey's promos suck. And it feel like they get worse over time. I don't want Liv to be in a weird position. I really just think she should lose this championship, go down to NXT, work on her promo skills, get in a couple, notable feuds down there, and then get called back up for the Rumble, and then we'll run it all back and see how it goes. But it's just this is just a tough stretch for Liv in the beginning. If she makes it past it, I feel like this can turn into the Kofi Mania thing, where a really good moment to win the championship, but then a really mediocre championship reign. And I don't know, because of the start, I don't know how you can come back from that, given that in her first title defense, she tapped out, but she still walked out as champ. Like, we're always going to remember that. So they just need to, I don't know.
It's unfortunate because like people were like begging for her to be champion, but like she hasn't had that stepping stone feud. Like what I mean by that is like that one guy that every first champion beats in their first title defense. Like for the men, it's like a Dolph Ziggler or like a Miz. Yeah. For the women, it's more like a Natalya. Like she went right into the Shark Tank with Ronda Rousey. Yeah. And then to get Shayna Baszler is because people know all of it. People, real wrestling fans don't really care how Shayna Baszler looks. Her resume speaks for itself. And you look at this again, it's like I'm looking at the same thing I did with Ronda Rousey. How on earth does Liv Morgan stand a chance of winning cleanly? She doesn't. So it's unfortunate.
It's going to take something, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds. From one women's champion to another women's champion, the EST of WWE, the Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair, is joining forces with Alexa Bliss and Asuka to take on the aforementioned Bayley, Iyo Sky, and Dakota Kai, and what I think is probably the biggest 6-woman tag team match of all time. I don't think we've ever had a 6-woman tag as star-studded as this one, and this could be, I think, the match of the night. 6 very talented women. Obviously, you have to think that Bayley, Iyo Sky, and Dakota Kai are going to win because this will be their first official major match as a trio. They've done squash matches, or what the business would call enhancement matches, against other talent. I think Bayley's wrestled a dark match. She might have also had one match on Raw since she's been back. I do think they're going to win, and this is going to be the beginning of the Bianca and Bayley feud for the championship. As much as I will say this, as much as I love seeing Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez as women's champions, I would have loved it if Alexa Bliss and Asuka won the tournament, just so that Damage Control's I think that's the name of the faction. Damage Control, when Bayley gets it'll be this this 6-woman feud can kind of continue, and like it'll be a complete transition of championships where it'll go from Bianca, Alexa, and Asuka to Bayley, Dakota, and Iyo. And I think that would kind of be a nice bow to put on the end of everything. That's just me. I'm never going to question Triple H because so far through like 2 months, he's given us no reason to think that he's not going to do great things. But that's just what I would have liked to see. I do think though that this could be the match of the night.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you look at like I look at Asuka, Alexa Bliss, and the Bianca Belair side. You know, Bianca Belair has had a dominant run on the women's division these last couple of years. Asuka resume speaks for herself. Success over in Japan, and they haven't done great things where they're here. I mean, they're finally starting to kind of put her back into the upper echelon field here. And then Alexa Bliss, obviously, people have been waiting for her for a long time to get healthy, is a 5-time champion in her own right. I'm super stoked to see Bayley. I was, just waiting and wait. Like, I was like, is this actually ever going to happen, like, with her return? Because, like, it was always, like, it's coming. But and for her now to use her platform, introduce 2 new superstars, and you're right. I think they win this match, and it does especially great things for Iyo Sky and Dakota Kai. I think Bayley gets the pin over either Asuka or Alexa Bliss. I don't think there's any way Bianca takes the pin, but I think especially for Iyo and for Dakota Kai, I think this does great things for them, and I think it gets them right into that conversation for a women's tag team title match, because these are a victory over 3 of the top women in the company right now, literally probably part of the top 5.
Yeah.
And Dakota and Iyo Sky are getting set up here. I think Bayley, I think you'll know if Iyo Sky and Dakota Kai win the women's tag team titles soon, that Bayley will win this feud with Bianca.
I hope she does. I mean, I don't, because I like seeing Bianca as champion, but I love seeing Bayley as champion even more. I'm a massive Bayley fan. I love Bayley.
Especially since we've already talked about like the 4 horsewomen. She's already beaten Bayley. Bianca has, so to have, this is like a newer, I guess not a newer Bayley, but like Bayley's return. And I think that she has, I don't know, it's going to be a long feud, but I think at the end, Bayley's going to end up becoming champion. And it's going to be a lot like the Bloodline, holding all the gold. Hopefully,
I'd love for that to happen. Please hold all the gold. Absolutely.
Hopefully not for as long as the Bloodline has. I mean, I kind of that's because the Bloodline has all like both brands titles, but yeah, I mean,
as they should, as they absolutely should. Let me just go on my rant about the Bloodline. Roman Reigns has been the Universal Champion for 2 years. Like, this is unprecedented. We haven't seen a championship reign this long in over 50 years. Like, Roman Reigns is amazing. And we're going to talk about Roman to finish off the show today because he is the main event. So, of course, he's going to be the main event of the show today. But Roman Reigns is spectacular. I love Roman Reigns. As much as I am ready to see someone else be champion, I'm not ready to see what that means for Roman, because Roman Reigns isn't the head of the table without the championships, because that's kind of how this whole thing started. Like, he can't be the tribal chief and the head of the table without the titles, because that gimmick started with the titles. If you had that before the titles, maybe, but you can't have it without the titles. So I am going to be hurt when Roman Reigns finally loses the titles, and we'll talk about that later as far as whether or not we think he will. But there is one champion that I think is in super duper danger to lose his championship. That's Gunther. Gunther, Sheamus, Intercontinental Championship. First of all, this is going to be, I misspoke. This is going to be the match of the night. The most physical match on the card today is for the Intercontinental Championship between Sheamus and Gunther. Sheamus trying to win the only championship he's yet to win in WWE. He's done everything. He has done everything in the company. He's a Royal Rumble winner. He's a former Mr. Money in the Bank, multi-time world champion, first Irish-born WWE champion. He's won the U.S. championship. He's a former tag team champion 6 or 7 times, I believe, actually, with Cesaro as a part of the bar. I think the only 2 things that Sheamus hasn't done in his career is main event WrestleMania and win the Intercontinental Championship. Is this the moment when Sheamus finally wins the IC belt, or do you think it stays on Gunther? Either way, it's going to be a hard-hitting match, and both of their chests are going to be about as red as my pen when the match is over, because there's going to be chops and punches and boots and all of it. It's going to be physical, and I'm going to love every second of it. Who do you have walking out of Wales as Intercontinental Champion?
I still have Gunther. I still think it's too early to pull the title off of him. Like, we just talked about finally getting an Intercontinental Championship on a pay-per-view, and it makes sense. It's in the UK. But Gunther is finally elevating that Intercontinental Championship, and maybe it's because Triple H is taking over. Nakamura is a fantastic superstar, but he was doing nothing for the title. But that was because of the way they were booking him, or I guess not booking him. I just think that the Intercontinental title has had too much momentum going for it to pull it away from Gunther right now. I think eventually, before he retires, Sheamus wins the IC title, and the guy's a future Hall of Famer either way. But I just think it's too early. You're finally getting that Intercontinental title off the ground without having to use the Miz. But yeah, I think it stays on Gunther. But I think it's going to be, if you expect a McIntyre Sheamus type of match, and maybe even better, because this is going to be great.
Look, no disrespect to Drew McIntyre. This is going to be so much better. So. Drew McIntyre is 6'5", 270. He's amazing, right? Can do anything. Drew McIntyre is a freak, but Gunther is so much more technically sound as a wrestler than Drew McIntyre is, in my opinion. In my opinion, anyway. I think Gunther is a bit stronger than Drew McIntyre. We know he hits harder than Drew McIntyre because his chops are deadly. Sheamus and Gunther, I think, it's going to be like Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, but I honestly believe that one of the reasons why the Drew McIntyre and Sheamus matches were so much better was because they were all no DQ matches, right? The last couple times we've seen Drew and Sheamus fight, they've all been some form of no DQ, last man standing, falls count anywhere, something like that. This isn't going to be that. This is going to be a straight up line them up, knock them down, straight up brawl between Gunther and Sheamus for the IC belt. Like, DQs are there, countouts are there. So I feel like it's going to have much more of a wrestling feel and still be hard hitting. Whereas Sheamus and Drew McIntyre have just been in straight up brawls the last couple times they fought. Great brawls, by the way. The Donnybrook match they had on SmackDown before on the go home episode of SummerSlam, where Drew locked up his spot to face Roman at the event today, was amazing. I don't know if Drew versus Sheamus in just like a regular match still hits the same. Both very talented, both extremely talented, extremely physical, very strong. But to me, I think this one's going to be so much better because it's not a no DQ match. So we're not going to see weapons. We're going to see 2 big dudes that love to fight each other, and it's going to be splendid. And I'm going to thoroughly enjoy watching Sheamus and Gunther beat the living crap out of each other for the Intercontinental Championship. And while I agree with you, I do think it could be too early for Gunther to lose the strap. As a fan of Sheamus from when I was a kid, I so desperately hope that Sheamus walks out of Wales as the new Intercontinental Champion. I really, really, really want to see it. This is, though, like we were talking about earlier with Liv, this is going to be Gunther's like stepping stone feud that takes him to the next level. Of course, Sheamus is in this to put Gunther over and assert himself as the most physical champion and the most physical specimen on SmackDown, not named, of course, Roman Reigns, because we all know that Roman Reigns is the best of everything on SmackDown. But I'm gonna love this match so much. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, if Sheamus, like you just mentioned about the Gunther establishing himself as the most physical guy. If you have just talking about the guys that are in the mid card, so like not McIntyre, not Roman Reigns. Right. If you have Sheamus, the hardest hitting challenger, go down as the first title defense, who beats Gunther? I mean, that's you're setting the bar high.
And that's kind of what we had with Gunther when he was the NXT UK champion, right? Who's beating this guy? And those matches were fantastic, like 45-minute classics, but they were all so hard hitting. I really think that is going to be a lot. And for those of you guys that aren't familiar with Gunther's NXT UK championship reign, he's the longest reigning NXT UK champion of all time. A lot of that did have to do with the fact that around the backstretch of his reign, COVID hit and NXT UK kind of stopped for a bit. So that does play a part in it. But all of Gunther's matches that involved the NXT UK championship were 30, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour long, like wrestling classics, but they weren't wrestling matches. They were physical brawls. And if that's what Triple H is doing for Gunther and the IC title, I love it. Now, we've talked a lot about, and I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter and on TikTok and all these places about the potential of Drew McIntyre bringing back his old theme, which I will go crazy tonight if Drew McIntyre brings back his old theme song. But Sheamus has also been vocal in the past about wanting his old theme to come back. Do you think for one night only they'll give Sheamus his old theme back, or do you think that's even less likely than Drew having his? I'd love to hear Sheamus's old theme, but I feel like we've only heard that theme for Sheamus as a face. I feel like they bring back that theme, he'd have to be a face, and Sheamus isn't gonna be a face after this. But it'd be great to hear that theme just one more time for this in this environment. Given that we are in the UK, I feel like it'd be perfect to bring it back at least one more time.
As a one-off, it would be terrific because I think you could get away with it with him coming out to it once as a heel. If he were to, like, you're right. If he's coming out to it every time, he's got to be a face. But I think one night only would be great.
It's gonna be fantastic.
It would just add another, I guess, component, not to the match, but like to the overall aesthetic of the match. Like you're already hyped from hearing this theme song, and you still got a hard hitting brawl ahead of you. It's great.
Absolutely. So let's go to Raw. Let's talk about Judgment Day, the worst faction in the history of WWE, that for some reason still exists after having lost every single match really they've been a part of on a major card. They are now going to team up, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, to take on Edge and Rey Mysterio. The looming question, though, is what's going to happen with Dominic. The last time we saw Edge, Rey, and Dominic and Judgment Day interact was on Raw this past week. And Dominic was going to hit Rhea and the crew with kendo sticks, but then he kind of stopped and gave it up to Rhea. Is this the moment when Dominic, turns heel and joins the Judgment Day? Because he thought he was going to be Rey's tag team partner heading into this match, and Rey said, hey, look, you're my son, but I got to go with Edge here. He's older. He's more wiser. I've tagged with him a lot. There's a chemistry there. He knows kind of what to do in these situations. You don't really have that. So there is the motive potentially is there, maybe, to see Dominic turn heel. They've been planting the seeds a bit about him joining Judgment Day. Do you think tonight is the night that Dominic joins the Judgment Day and joins the ranks with Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley? Or do you think it's not going to happen? Edge and Rey Mysterio win the match.
I don't think Edge and Rey Mysterio. I think Judgment Day needs this win badly. But I think you could see like a half turn for today. What if he just attacks Edge, and then tomorrow, when his father confronts him, attacks Rey tomorrow? I'm thinking they could do something like that, or they could. I mean, they could either hold off on it, like where he attacks Rey tomorrow night, or he could attack Ray tonight. I think he's going to get involved, and he could very well attack Edge because he's had a problem with Edge the last couple of weeks since Edge speared him. And I mean, Dominic sold that spear well, but I mean,
sold it so well, didn't he?
He did. But yeah, I think that all the teasing, I think it comes to a head tonight. I think with Judgment Day and desperately needed a win, and not only would you get Judgment Day a win, you would add new heat or a new component to Judgment Day, which is Rey's son turning on him, which I've been holding my breath about, bro, because I don't want to see it, but I also want it. You have to see it.
Yeah.
Really badly. The kid.
Oh yeah, go
ahead. You remember that kid that Rey Mysterio fought for custody for, and he's hugging his son at the end of the match? That kid's gonna turn on him at either today or on Monday.
I love it. I love nothing more than to see that. I think that'd be interesting to see, and that'd be a lot better than just Rey or Dominic turning on Rey and then like fighting in a meaningless match that'll mean nothing in a couple months. And maybe that might be the kick in the butt that the Judgment Day needed. There's two more matches that we have to talk about on the card. One is the most personal match on the card. Seth Rollins, Matt Riddle got his name back. Clap it up for that. Matt Riddle got his name back. Matt Riddle, Seth Rollins. The promo they had on Monday was spicy. Super spicy. They did the good old split. Well, actually, it started because before Raw even started, they kind of did the whole little fight in the parking lot thing. So they said, well, we can't do a face-to-face, so we're going to do a whole split screen thing. And they did the little interview thing. Interviews over. At the end of the interview, we went to commercial break. Right before the interview, Matt Riddle looks at Seth Rollins and he says, I'm going to prove that there's only one man in your family. That's Becky, bro. Because, Becky's bringing back the man, apparently. Well, apparently during the commercial break, there was some more words exchanged. And Seth Rollins basically said, you want to talk about my family? Let's talk about your family. He says, oh, well, you don't got one because your wife divorced you, took your kids because they don't want to see insert two words anymore. And Riddle dropped some F-bombs. Got really spicy. Real spicy on Raw. This is going to be such a great match. Who do you have winning? Who do you have winning this match? Riddle or Rollins?
I don't want to see Rollins take another loss, but I really feel like he could. Like
he's taking the most losses on the main roster this year. It has not been a good year for Seth Rollins.
I think he takes another loss. I mean, I want to see him win, but I was like, okay, he's definitely going to beat Cody once, and he didn't beat Cody once. And, maybe that's because that was the big return of Cody Rhodes, but I think Matt Riddle is also in desperate need, or not desperate, but he's in dire need of a big win. He's, obviously he was tagging with Orton and they won the tag team titles, but a big singles win over a guy like Rollins. Rollins is a guy, no matter how many losses he takes, you always remember the heist of the century, the long championship reigns, him becoming a double champion at one point. The dominance at the tag team level, him as part of the Shield was great. Yeah. I really feel like because of all those accolades, they're okay with letting Rollins lose. And I think Riddle, if they, Riddle's older, so if you're gonna turn him into a big star, it's gotta happen now. Like he has.
And after pushing Roman Reigns to the limit on SmackDown for the championship about a month or so ago, or 2 months ago now at this point, this would be the next step in continuing to push Riddle into that stratosphere, is beating Seth Rollins. But you're right, Seth Rollins hasn't won a feud in almost 2 years, dude.
And that's crazy.
He hasn't won a pay-per-view match. He hasn't won a pay-per-view match since WrestleMania Backlash, I think last year, I do believe he beat Cesaro at WrestleMania Backlash last year. I think he won that match. I think they were on the card and he won that match. But I mean, he lost his feud to Cody, as you mentioned, right? Lost his feud to Edge, which was a great feud, wasn't it? Lost his feud to Edge. But the Cesaro feud, even though he did win a match, he ultimately lost the feud against Cesaro. So there's a loss there. I don't think Seth Rollins has won a feud, and you guys can fact check me on this. I don't think Seth has won a feud since the Rey Mysterio feud back in the Thunderdome when he in the eye for an eye match, which was just disgusting. But I think it's been that long since Seth Rollins has won a feud, which is crazy to think about because it's Seth Rollins, right? Like, you'd think he would have won more than one feud, but yeah, it has not been good for Seth the past few years, but he's great, uber talented, great on the mic, of course, characters all there, first ballot Hall of Famer. I do want Seth to get the win, but this is a different side of Riddle we're seeing. Maybe that plays in Seth's advantage of, like, he's going to be 2 in his head. Seth's been here before. He knows what it's like to play mind games. He's been playing amazing mind games too the past couple months with the feuds that he's been doing great work from a mental standpoint. But my pick is for Seth because I do feel like, look, Seth's got to win, right? There's no way Seth loses, but then there also is a way that Seth loses, and that's because how many can you have Seth go over right now? I don't know. It's so confusing because this is a big card and it's a big moment because it's the first stadium show in the UK in over 30 years, but I'm so on the fence. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the match, and whatever happens, happens. I can't pick. I don't have a pick for this because it's going to be great.
My thing is, like, if Riddle loses, what do you do with him? If Rollins loses, you can always just turn him into another feud. Like, I feel like if
Riddle loses, well, this feud technically just started because this will be their first match. So if Riddle loses, you just run it back.
That's true.
You could just run it back. Because this was supposed to start at SummerSlam, but Riddle got hurt, so they kind of hurt. They pushed it back to give it a little bit more time to build, which I think was a great decision. So we could see this match again in November. At Survivor Series, maybe. I don't know. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But it's. I don't think this is going to be a one-off. I do think there's a chance we get at least one more match of this in some capacity down the line. Hopefully, like whether it's at Survivor Series, whether it's at on an episode of Raw or whatever the case may be. I do think we're going to see these two men do battle again outside of today. If today is the one and only time that we're going to see Riddle and Seth fight or wrestle each other, Riddle should win. If not, give the win to Seth and Riddle can get the win at another pay-per-view, I think should be the line of thinking. But like I said earlier, I'm not going to tell Triple H what to do because I have no reason to doubt his judgment. So whatever he decides, I know it's going to be the right decision. Let's get to the main event. Such a massive main event. Roman Reigns, who has officially passed the 2-year mark as champion in WWE. He's been the Universal Champion for 2 years. He has been the WWE Champion for 5 months now. 5 months now. He's been WWE Champion. Drew McIntyre finally trying to see if he can win that championship for the first time in front of fans. He's a former 2-time WWE Champion, but that was during the Thunderdome era. So Drew McIntyre also finally looking to beat Roman Reigns because in all of their run-ins, Drew McIntyre has lost to Roman Reigns. Is this the time, the place, the day that Roman Reigns' reign as the head of the table and the tribal chief comes to an end at the hands of Drew McIntyre, or do we see this historic 2-year championship reign live on at least another month until the next pay-per-view?
No, Roman's. I think Roman wins this match, despite what I've been saying the past few previews that the plan is for McIntyre to win at Clash of the Castle. there's been no sign that Roman's gonna lose. So I think it's more likely that you see
maybe
Bray Wyatt
to shock, just like as a shock factor of like no one kind of expected it, so here we are type of thing.
But would you? I don't know. Could you do that with a guy like McIntyre though? Like I don't know.
The story is there.
That's true.
The story is there for Drew. He's coming home to his. It's not his home. He's not in Scotland, but he's coming home to the UK. First stadium show in the UK over 30 years. Main event for the world titles. The story is there, right? We saw at the end of SmackDown on Friday, he took out the entire bloodline and notably with a spear to Jey Uso through the barricade, which was incredible, by the way. The story is there for Drew. And we were talking before we went live today. I think if Vince was still in charge, this wouldn't be that confusing. It'd be like, yes, it's probably going to be Drew. Because Vince loves Roman, of course. Vince is Roman. Roman is Vince's boy. But he also loves himself some Drew. With Triple H being in charge, you'd think that Roman would lose. But then, do you know that Roman's going to lose with Triple H being in charge? Like, it's either way. I don't know. Look, Roman Reigns is my tribal chief. He's the head of my, well, he's not the head of my table. I'm the head of my table, but he's my tribal chief. I acknowledge Roman Reigns every day. I love Roman Reigns. I honestly, because you're right. I was right there with you, right? We've been doing these previews now pretty much all year, pretty much since day one. We were like, yeah, it's coming. Drew at Clash. From the moment we all knew Clash guys, so, oh yeah, Roman versus Drew. Drew's going to win the belts. Now it's like, is he? Right? I don't know. It's a toss-up. If I had to pick, I'm going to say it's possible. I do think of all the challengers that it's crazy to think because he's fought Brock Lesnar twice in this title reign. Of all the challengers that Roman has had, it would make the most sense, or it wouldn't be that far-fetched to think that Drew can do it because we've seen Drew end a dominating champion's reign before. That Brock Lesnar is how he won the WWE Championship in the first place back in the Thunderdome WrestleMania 36. It's possible. The tough part, though, is if Drew McIntyre loses this match, what's next for Drew moving forward? I think that's where it kind of gets tough about who's going to win. You know, Roman loses, we won't see Roman for a while, and then he'll just pop up one day. And then he'll get a big match at like Royal Rumble, and then The Rock will come out, cost the match, and there we go, Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania for night 2 main event. Makes perfect sense, right? Roman wins, we could have it the same way, and maybe it's for the championship. But if Drew McIntyre loses this match, what's next? There's a lot riding on this for Drew when you think about it, because of all the things that I just mentioned. I don't know, man. It's not as clear as we thought it was a couple months ago when we were running through our previews and talking about Roman's opponents and all this stuff. It was like, yeah, you know, Roman's gonna win because we're gonna wait for Roman versus Drew, and Drew's gonna win it. It's not. You're right. It's not as easy as it was our last couple of previews to kind of be able to decide who wins this match. And that's what I love about this is it's going to be unpredictable either way. And it's going to be, I think, shocking no matter what happens. Because it's like Drew wins. Wow. Who would have thought Drew would beat Roman Reigns as long as he'd been champion? Roman wins, like, whoa. Who would have thought Drew was going to lose in the first UK stadium show in over 30 years? It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
I love Drew McIntyre. He deserves that big moment in front of fans, but I'm just not so sure if this is it anymore because there's been no signs of Roman slowing down. And you're right. I think whenever Roman does lose, he's going to take a vacation. But I always thought that the Usos would lose their titles first, and the Usos became the third team with a title reign over 400 days to go along with Demolition and the New Day. So that was pretty cool. I saw that this morning on Bleacher Report. So that was pretty cool. But I don't know. Could you continue because if Roman loses and takes a vacation here, what do you do with the Usos and their belts? Are they Are they going to represent the bloodline where Roman's pretty much on vacation? And then
they do. They are still the undisputed tag team champion, so it's possible. It's absolutely possible.
It's true. Like, you are the bloodline now. Roman's like kind of gone now.
Maybe that's the beginning of the end for the Usos, though. Like, because we've always thought that maybe when the Usos are going to lose their titles first, and then Roman. What if Roman loses, and then that spells the beginning of the end for the Usos and their reign of terror and their reign of dominance over the tag team division as well? We might have had it flipped. This could be the beginning of the end for the Usos, instead of the Usos losing their championships being the beginning of the end for Roman Reigns. It's going to be really interesting, and that's a fair point. I think they've been trying to plant the seeds for Kevin Owens and Sami to team up and take down the Usos to win the tag team titles, which I would absolutely love, and I think it'd be the absolute banger of a match. They kind of planted the seeds with that, especially on Raw when Sami couldn't hit Kevin Owens with the chair, while Jimmy had the ref distracted in that match when Kevin Owens against Jey Uso. But hey, you're right, it could be flipped. Maybe this is the end for Roman, and then that means the beginning of the end for the Usos, or maybe not. Look, Roman Reigns is my tribal chief. I acknowledge my tribal chief not every day. Every time I watch WWE, I do acknowledge my tribal chief. So I am, out of loyalty to Roman Reigns and out of loyalty to him being the head of the table and being the tribal chief, I am going to say that Roman Reigns is going to retain the WWE Undisputed Universal, the Undisputed WWE Universal Championships tonight in the main event at Clash of the Castle. It's not because I don't want Drew to win. It's because I really don't know, but I'm loyal to my tribal chief, so I will make that pick there. And it's more so out of loyalty than it is out of confidence, because I really don't know who wins this match at all.
The other thing, and I guess you could do the same thing with McIntyre, is if you have Roman win this, like I thought the plan now was for Roman to beat Drew and move on to Karrion Kross, because Karrion Kross attacked Drew McIntyre and put the hourglass in front of Roman, and it was one of those very few times in his title win where Roman has looked human, in which he looked confused. The other time being the whole feud with Rollins. Honestly, Roman looked pretty human.
Yeah.
But Roman just looked confused. And I feel like it'd be something like Karrion Kross would be something like Roman's never fought during this title reign. So I always thought the next step for Roman was for him to go on to Karrion Kross. And I thought maybe Kevin Owens, but now with the whole Sami thing, now I could see Sami turning on the Usos to join Owens.
So is Karrion Kross going to be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns? That's a rocket ship to the strap to the back for sure, if Karrion Kross is the one to beat Roman Reigns for the championship.
I mean,
it's so confusing. Because
this is the ending Roman Reigns' million-day reign as champion is going to be an accomplishment on your Hall of Fame resume, whatever it is. I ended one of the longest.
It's going to be the same as it's going to have that same feel, not on the same level, of course, but it's going to be in the same atmosphere potentially as when Brock beat the Streak. Like, it's going to have that same feel of like it's coming to an end, but you really, just because of how dominant he's been, you really don't think it's coming to an end until it comes to an end. I'm loyal to my tribal chief. My pick is for Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns walks into Cardiff, Wales, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Roman Reigns will walk out of Cardiff, Wales, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Drew McIntyre, I think, will turn his attention. Maybe Karrion Kross interferes in this match. And maybe that's what Drew does next. Because we were talking earlier about maybe the Fiend attacks Roman. What if someone, whether it's the Fiend or someone else, attacks Drew?
That's true. That would give Drew.
That's how Drew loses the championship. Now Drew has something to do. right? You can move Roman on to someone else, whoever that someone else may be. I would like to think it might be Braun Strowman, since he's supposed to be in the building on Raw. Braun Strowman calling out Roman Reigns. That'd be great, right? We never really got to see Roman versus Braun for in a championship capacity, because except for at Hell in a Cell, but then the match ended in a no contest because Brock Lesnar came in and kicked down the door of Hell in a Cell, F5'd everybody, and beat everybody with like broken tables and doors and all this crazy stuff. Just doing what Brock Lesnar does. So either one, I think, would be a viable option. It gives Roman something to do. It gives Drew something to do. Drew dispatches of Roman. Roman dispatches of Braun. And then we come back at it. Drew versus Roman again at like the Royal Rumble or day one or something. And then that's the end. I don't know. But like I said, it's going to be a great match. And it's a toss-up. And so because it's a toss-up, like I said, I'm going to stick to my undying loyalty for the Tribal Chief. And we're going to go there. So we went 2 minutes over, which is unfortunate. Clash of the Castle is officially live on Peacock. It's on right now. So if there's any of you wrestling fans that are watching this, you guys go check it out. I don't want to keep you guys any longer. Sal, it's always a pleasure to have you on for these monthly reviews. Please let everybody know where they can find you and your content.
Yes, so you can follow my Instagram on social media at Sports in the Big Apple. And then I have my show on Spotify, Google Podcast, Libsyn, and iHeartRadio. So definitely a lot of fun stuff coming up. Baseball playoffs are coming up. Football's getting started. Jets already had their quarterback almost go out for the year. So, that's great news. But the Mets and the Yankees are both, I expect them both to make noise here in October, even the Yankees have really struggled. Coming down the stretch, the Mets, albeit got a little lucky that Clayton Kershaw left after 5 innings, but they did take 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers at Citi Field. So, it's going to be a very fun September with the NL East race, and the playoffs are starting. You had the big Donovan Mitchell trade. The Knicks missed out after they were the lock to get him. The Knicks wouldn't give up the draft compensation. So that really, and I think it's a great move for both sides, for the Jazz and for the Cavaliers and Donovan Mitchell. That's gonna be fun. But that's all coming up. I can't wait to talk about all this stuff. Marcus, thank you so much for having me on this. I always love talking wrestling, especially this, like a pay-per-view in a foreign country where they're gonna pull out all the stops like they do for Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
They're pulling out all the stops for this. It's a great match card. So I would encourage anyone to go check it out right now.
Fantastic. And it's only there's only 6 or 7 matches on the card. So we know for a fact that every match is going to be at least 15 to 20 minutes, 20 minutes, which is also really good for a big show. There's going to be a lot of pyro. I'm placing my bet right now. I want to see it so bad, so I am betting C. But then if he does it, then he's got to win. If Drew McIntyre's old theme comes out tonight, there's no way he's losing. There's no way Drew McIntyre brings out the greatest theme song of all time, and it's not the greatest theme song of all time. One of the greatest theme songs of all time, and loses. So I don't know, but I do think we might see that tonight. That one more likely than Sheamus, but I could also see Sheamus bring back his old theme for one night only. Listen, it's always a pleasure to have Sal on the show. Thank you guys for watching on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook. You guys know where to find me: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. GTP Marcus, or on Facebook, just type in my name. You guys can find the show on YouTube. Obviously, if you guys are watching, you know that. But also the audio version of this and every other episode that we posted in the past, and every episode that we'll post in the future will be live on YouTube, or on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast, either later today or on tomorrow. Stacked week for the next couple of days. Got a show dropping on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Episode 200 is on Wednesday. And like I announced yesterday, on Thursday, but I've kind of repeated over the course of the past couple of days, the Rundown with Peyton and Marcus debuts next Thursday, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, right before Thursday Night Football. We're going to talk about some of the biggest news in sports, football, basketball, baseball, whatever. If you want it, we're going to have it. So it's going to be a blast. So you guys want to tune into that. And then next Friday, so the Friday after the debut of the Rundown, my guy Martin Stories came back on the show, and we talked about all things basketball. We talked about KD staying in Brooklyn. We talked about Donovan Mitchell with the Cavs. We talked about Russell Westbrook, Pat Bev. We talked about LeBron James eventually passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at some point this season to become the all-time leading scorer in the NBA. So Very stacked week, extremely stacked week. Make sure you guys tune in. Sal and I will be right back here next month for what's next month? Survivor Series, I think. Yeah. We'll be right back here next month for Survivor Series. Do this same thing, same time, same place. You guys know where to find us. So from my guy, Sal Vassallo of Sports in the Big Apple, this is Marcus of Go Talking Marcus signing off. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, you guys enjoy the rest of your lives and enjoy Clash of the Castle.